This Christmas, as the world dazzles with lights and echoes with carols, many of us carry a weight that no festive cheer can seem to lift. Worry, persistent, gnawing, and relentless, has a way of weaving itself into the fabric of our days. We worry about tomorrow, about our families, our futures, and even the things we cannot name. Yet, amid this noise of anxious thoughts, there is a whisper, ancient yet ever fresh: do not be afraid. This is the refrain of Christmas, isn't it? From the angel's proclamation to Mary, Joseph, and the shepherds, to the silent assurance of a child born in a manger, God's message to humanity is clear. Worry is not your portion, for He is at work, even when you cannot see it. Worry, you see, is a thief. It robs us of today's joys while promising a false mastery over tomorrow's uncertainties. But here is the truth: you and I were never meant to carry the weight of the world. That is God's domain, and He is infinitely more capable. Christmas is a reminder of this God stepping into the mess of humanity to bear what we could not. And so, if worry has settled into your heart like an unwelcome guest, I invite you to reflect on this. The same God who orchestrated the timing of Christ's birth is weaving your story with care. Think of Mary, a young woman with every reason to fear. Yet her surrender, "Let it be to me according to your word," became the doorway to a miracle. This Christmas, God is calling you to that same surrender. He does not ask for perfect faith, only a willing heart. Lay down your anxieties, your striving, and your endless attempts to control what you cannot. In exchange, He offers a gift far greater: transformation. Transformation is not always immediate. Like the seeds hidden beneath winter's frost, God's work often unfolds in unseen places. But make no mistake, He is working. Every prayer you whisper, every fear you hand over to Him, is a step closer to the life He has prepared for you. Christmas is not merely a commemoration of what God has done, it is a promise of what He will do. The same power that brought light to a dark Bethlehem night is at work in your life today. If He can turn a manger into the throne room of heaven, imagine what He can do with your worries. So, this Christmas, let the lights remind you of His guiding presence. Let the carols echo His promises. And as you gather around the manger, remember, He has come not just to save the world, but to save you. To transform your fear into faith, your sorrow into joy, and your worry into peace. Stop worrying. Trust Him. The miracle of Christmas is not confined to history. This Christmas, amidst the lights and songs, many of us carry burdens that no celebration seems to lighten. Worry about our futures, our families, and the unknown creeps into our hearts and steals our peace. But Christmas reminds us of something extraordinary. God is at work, even in the midst of our mess. The angels told the shepherds, "Do not be afraid." This wasn't just a command, it was a promise. God's arrival in that humble manger was His way of saying, "I am here to carry what you cannot." Worry accomplishes nothing, but trust in Him opens the door to transformation. Like Mary, who surrendered her fears with the words, "Let it be to me according to your word," we too are invited to hand over our burdens. God does not ask us to solve every problem, He asks us to trust Him to do what only He can. This Christmas, let your worries go. Lay them at the feet of the one who came to bring peace. Trust that the God who turned a manger into a throne can turn your fear into faith and your despair into joy. Stop worrying. God is ready to transform your life. Worry is a silent thief, often unnoticed until it has robbed us of peace and left us with a lingering sense of exhaustion. It creeps into our thoughts, turning small concerns into mountains that dominate our minds. Yet, worry is deceptive. It creates the illusion of productivity, making us believe that by obsessing over our problems, we are somehow solving them. In truth, worry accomplishes nothing. It does not change circumstances, alter outcomes, or bring solutions. Instead, it drains our energy, saps our joy, and distorts our perspective. When we worry, our minds become consumed by what-ifs, spiraling into endless scenarios of fear and uncertainty. This mental turmoil creates a heavy burden that affects not only our emotional well-being, but also our physical health. Anxiety takes a toll on the body, manifesting in sleepless nights, fatigue, and even illness. Beyond the personal cost, worry can strain relationships. It isolates us, making it harder to connect with others because our focus is so consumed by our internal struggles. We lose sight of the present, missing opportunities for connection, gratitude, and joy. At its core, worry stems from a lack of trust. It reflects a belief that we alone must bear the weight of our challenges, that the future depends entirely on our ability to control it. Yet the truth is, much of life is beyond our control. The seasons change, the sun rises and sets, and the world moves on, none of it by our effort or willpower. Worry keeps us locked in a futile attempt to grasp what is not ours to hold. This striving leaves us weary and disillusioned, perpetually chasing a peace that seems just out of reach. Faith offers an antidote to this cycle. It calls us to release our grip, to recognize that we were never meant to carry the burdens we so often shoulder. The invitation is simple yet profound. Cast all your anxieties on Him, because He cares for you. This act of surrender is not passive. It requires intention and trust. It asks us to believe that there is a greater hand at work, one that is both capable and compassionate. Trusting God does not mean ignoring problems or dismissing genuine concerns. Instead, it means acknowledging that while we have a role to play, we are not the ultimate authors of our story. It allows us to shift our focus from fear to faith, from striving to resting in the knowledge that God is sovereign. This perspective transforms our approach to challenges, replacing the weight of worry with a sense of peace and hope. Worry may promise to protect us from the unknown, but in reality, it only magnifies our fears. Faith, on the other hand, invites us to step into the unknown with confidence, knowing that we are not alone. When we release worry, we make room for God's presence to bring clarity, strength, and transformation. This choice, though not always easy, leads to a freedom that worry can never provide. God's timing is a profound mystery that often challenges our understanding and patience. In a world where we expect instant results and quick solutions, the concept of waiting can feel almost unbearable. Yet, throughout history, God has shown that His timing is not only perfect but also intentional. It is neither hurried nor delayed, and it operates beyond the limitations of human comprehension. Christmas itself is a testament to this truth. The birth of Christ occurred at a precise moment in history, fulfilling centuries of prophecy and arriving at a time when the world was primed for the message of hope and salvation. The waiting for the Messiah was not short or easy. Generations of people clung to promises made through the prophets, enduring long periods of silence and uncertainty. They must have wondered why God delayed, why their deliverance seemed so far away. Yet, when Christ came, it became clear that every moment leading up to His arrival was purposeful. The political, cultural, and spiritual conditions of the time converged in a way that allowed the gospel to spread and take root in the hearts of millions. God's timing was not random, it was orchestrated with precision and love. This divine timing is not limited to grand historical events. It extends into the personal lives of every individual who seeks Him. We often wrestle with God's timing because it rarely aligns with our own expectations. We want immediate answers, quick resolutions, and visible progress. But God, in His infinite wisdom, sees what we cannot. He knows when we are ready, when the circumstances are right, and when His plans can come to fruition in ways that will ultimately bless and refine us. Delays are not denials, they are often a space for growth. In the waiting, God prepares us for what is to come. He uses these periods to strengthen our faith, deepen our character, and draw us closer to Him. This process can be uncomfortable, even painful, as it requires patience and trust in the unseen. Yet, it is during these times that we learn the most about God's faithfulness and our dependence on Him. The waiting becomes a crucible, shaping us into vessels capable of receiving and stewarding His blessings. When we surrender to God's timing, we begin to see the beauty in the unfolding of His plans. What may seem like a delay from our perspective is often His protection or provision in disguise. He is never late. He is always working behind the scenes, aligning people, circumstances, and events to bring about His perfect will. This understanding invites us to rest, knowing that we do not need to force or manipulate outcomes. The story of Christmas reminds us that God moves at just the right time, not a moment too soon or too late. Trusting in His timing allows us to experience the peace that comes from knowing He holds all things in His hands and works them together for good. The power of surrender is a profound and often overlooked principle that transforms lives in ways we cannot fully comprehend. At its heart, surrender is about relinquishing control, letting go of the tight grip we maintain on our plans, fears, and uncertainties. It is not an act of defeat, as the world might perceive, but one of profound trust and humility. To surrender is to acknowledge our limitations and recognize that there is a higher power capable of doing immeasurably more than we can imagine. Surrendering to God is not about giving up or resigning to hopelessness. It is an active choice to place our lives in the hands of the One who created us, who knows our beginning from our end, and who loves us unconditionally. This act of release allows God to work freely in our lives without the barriers we so often erect through worry, doubt, and self-reliance. When we surrender, we open the door for His power to manifest in ways that exceed human understanding, bringing peace to chaos and purpose to uncertainty. The idea of surrender is vividly illustrated in the story of Mary, the mother of Jesus. When confronted with the angel's message that she would bear the Savior of the world, Mary faced a choice. She could have resisted, overwhelmed by fear and the potential repercussions of her situation. Instead, she responded with words of complete trust. "Let it be to me according to your word." This simple yet profound act of surrender allowed God's plan for humanity's salvation to unfold through her. Mary's willingness to let go of her fears and submit to God's will transformed not only her life but the course of history. Surrender is not without its challenges. It requires us to confront our fears, acknowledge our weaknesses, and relinquish our desire for control. This can be uncomfortable and even terrifying, as it involves stepping into the unknown. However, it is in this vulnerability that we discover the depth of God's strength and faithfulness. He does not ask us to surrender in order to leave us empty or vulnerable. Rather, He invites us to let go so that He can fill us with His peace, strength, and purpose. One of the most powerful aspects of surrender is the freedom it brings. When we stop striving to control every detail of our lives, we release the burden of responsibility that was never ours to carry. This freedom allows us to live with greater peace and joy, trusting that God is in control and that His plans for us are good. It also opens our hearts to His guidance, enabling us to walk in alignment with His will rather than being driven by our own limited understanding. Surrender is an ongoing process, a daily decision to trust God in all things. Each time we lay down our worries, ambitions, and fears at His feet, we make room for His power to work in and through us. In surrendering, we find the strength to live a life of faith, hope, and love, anchored in the assurance that God is with us and for us. Christmas embodies the essence of hope, and it is through hope that God brings about transformation in our lives. Hope is not merely a fleeting wish or a fragile optimism. It is a deep and abiding confidence that stems from the promises of God. It is the assurance that no matter how dark or uncertain our circumstances may seem, God is at work weaving a story of redemption and renewal. This kind of hope has the power to transform our hearts and minds, lifting us from fear to faith and from despair to joy. Hope is a thread that runs through the Christmas story, tying together the promises of old with the fulfillment of a Savior's birth. For centuries, the people of Israel waited for the Messiah, clinging to the prophecies of deliverance even as they faced oppression and exile. The arrival of Jesus in a humble manger was the culmination of that hope, a living testament to God's faithfulness. In sending His Son, God demonstrated that He not only hears the cries of His people, but also acts decisively to bring light into the darkest places. This same hope is available to us today. It is not dependent on our circumstances or our ability to control outcomes. Instead, it is rooted in the character of God, His goodness, faithfulness, and unchanging love. When we place our hope in Him, we are anchoring ourselves to a foundation that cannot be shaken, no matter what storms we face. This hope gives us the courage to persevere, the strength to rise above challenges, and the perspective to see beyond our present struggles to the greater purpose God is unfolding. Hope is transformative because it changes the way we see ourselves, others, and the world around us. It shifts our focus from what is lacking to what is possible, from fear to trust, and from despair to expectation. When we embrace hope, we begin to see our circumstances not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities for God's power to be revealed. This shift in perspective empowers us to move forward in faith, knowing that God is working all things together for good. The beauty of hope is that it is contagious. When we live as people of hope, we inspire others to believe in the possibility of transformation as well. Our words, actions, and attitudes become a reflection of the hope we have found in Christ, drawing others toward the source of that hope. This is the essence of the Christmas message, that through the birth of Jesus, hope entered the world, bringing with it the promise of new beginnings and the power to change lives. Hope is not passive, it calls us to action. It invites us to trust God, to take steps of faith, and to live with expectancy, believing that He is able to do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine. When we hold on to this hope, we open our hearts to the transformative work of God, allowing Him to turn our fears into faith, our sorrows into joy, and our doubts into confident trust in His unfailing promises. The call to replace worry with active trust in God is both a challenge and an invitation. It challenges us to step out of the patterns of fear and self-reliance that we so often cling to, and invites us into a relationship of trust with the Creator of the universe. This act of trust is not passive, it requires deliberate action and a shift in mindset. It is a daily decision to align our hearts with God's promises and to live with the confidence that He is in control, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. Prayer is a foundational way to cultivate active trust in God. Through prayer, we bring our fears, concerns, and uncertainties before Him, acknowledging our dependence on His wisdom and power. Prayer is not merely a ritual, it is a lifeline that connects us to the source of all peace and strength. In prayer, we are reminded that we are not alone in our struggles and that God's presence is with us, offering guidance and comfort. This practice of casting our cares on Him helps us to release the grip of worry and entrust our lives to His care. Gratitude is another essential aspect of active trust. When we focus on what God has already done in our lives, we cultivate a heart of thankfulness that pushes back against the tendency to dwell on what is uncertain or lacking. Gratitude shifts our perspective, helping us to see the ways God has been faithful in the past and trust that He will continue to be faithful in the future. This attitude of thankfulness is a powerful antidote to worry, as it redirects our attention from our fears to God's provision and goodness. Living with expectation is another key component of trusting God. Active trust means not only believing in God's promises but also anticipating their fulfillment. This expectation is not wishful thinking, it is a confident hope rooted in the knowledge of who God is. When we live with expectation, we approach each day with the belief that God is working on our behalf, even in ways we cannot see. This mindset empowers us to face challenges with courage and to take steps of faith, trusting that God will provide and guide us along the way. Active trust also involves surrendering our need for control. This can be one of the most difficult aspects of trust, as it requires us to let go of our own plans and desires and submit to God's will. However, it is in this surrender that we find true peace. When we release our grip on the outcomes we desire, we create space for God to work in ways that exceed our expectations. This act of surrender is not a sign of weakness but of strength, as it demonstrates our confidence in God's ability to lead us better than we could lead ourselves. Replacing worry with active trust is a transformative process. It involves engaging in practices that strengthen our faith, such as prayer, gratitude, and living with expectation, while surrendering control to God. This ongoing journey of trust allows us to experience the peace and joy that come from knowing that God is faithful and that His plans for us are good. As we embrace the season of Christmas, we are reminded that it is far more than a celebration of tradition, it is an invitation to transformation. This is a time to lay down our worries, trust in God's perfect timing, and surrender our burdens to the One who is capable of carrying them. It is a call to rediscover hope, a hope that fuels our faith and inspires us to live with expectation of God's miraculous work in our lives. Christmas is a testament to God's unchanging love, a reminder that He has not only come to save us but to transform us, guiding us from fear to faith, from despair to joy, and from worry to peace. God's message is clear: stop worrying, for He is at work. As you let go of your fears and trust in His plans, you will see His power and grace unfold in ways you could never imagine. The miracle of Christmas is not confined to a single moment in history. It is alive today, ready to touch and transform your life. May this Christmas season be filled with peace, hope, and the courage to trust God with every aspect of your life. As you take steps to release worry and embrace faith, may you experience His transformative love in deeper ways than ever before. Thank you for taking the time to reflect on this message, and good luck as you walk boldly into the new year, knowing that God is with you, working all things together for your good. Merry Christmas and God bless you.